Well, Razorback fans, you can stop the speculation. You can stop the plane tracking. You can stop asking the question of who we're going to hire. Because it is official that Sam Pittman will be coming back next season as the Arkansas Razorback head football coach.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I'm also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. With right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Hope everybody's having a wonderful weekend and had a wonderful weekend. I'm sure nothing crazy or busy happened. Of course not. Well, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about it all because for those of you who may be not knowing, maybe you've been living under a rock or something like that, but it was made official yesterday that the University of Arkansas will be retaining Sam Pittman for another year. And it was originally being reported by 24/7 Sports, where it said that Hunter Yurachek, the athletic director for the University of Arkansas, informed the Razorback players and staff last night that he is sticking with Sam Pittman as the head coach. So that was the initial report. And I was looking at some other things too, like for instance, waiting for Hunter Yurachek to say something. Okay, so we saw this report, so when are you actually going to say something about it? And he put out a statement, finally, it was just in a written form on Twitter, where Hunter Yurachek said, quote, "Our team was extremely excited last night after the game when I informed them that Coach Pittman is our head coach and will be moving forward into the 2024 season. This has not been the season any of us has anticipated. We have work to do. I am confident that together we can meet the goals and expectations of our program. I want to thank the many Razorback fans who have supported our team this season. I look forward to honoring our seniors and cheering on this team on Friday as we take on Missouri." There you have it. It's official. Sam Pittman will be returning as the University of Arkansas Razorback head football coach. Now, this was all came out after the fact. I'm going to play this clip from the Sam Pittman press conference, which, by the way, they beat FIU. I don't even know if anyone cares about that. But we'll talk a little bit about it in the next segment when we go through the roster and everything. But Sam Pittman was asked about in the press conference because of the ESPN broadcasters, I guess, Rod Gilmore, and I forgot who that guy's name was because I was at the game. I didn't hear it until after the fact. But apparently they said that, we talked to Sam Pittman, and he told us that he's not getting fired. Well, he was asked about that. Sam Pittman was in the press conference after the game, and he responded with it and kind of just laid it all out there about the speculation about him getting fired and the impact that it has.
I will say this, guys, that when we start talking about firing and all this, it kills us in recruiting. It does. And especially when we fabricate stories and put it out, it kills us in recruiting. And when we give opinions about who's coming in and all those type things, it kills us. And, I got a wife and she's a human being. We're going to put out stuff that's not true. I know it's opinion world now, but I don't think I'm getting fired, guys, or he would have told me I'm getting fired. And so I'm not for sure why I have to answer these questions about getting fired or not, but I think I don't, but we'll kill recruiting if we keep talking about it. And if you're an Arkansas fan, it's going to hurt us. So opinions, media has become opinions. And so I wish we'd post the facts, and whatever the facts are, then we can deal with it.
I said on broadcast, you can't just ignore it.
I'm not, Bob. You're a wonderful man. You gave me an opportunity. You gave me an opportunity to say what I wanted to say.
So Sam Pittman after the game, and I listened to that, and I know there's a lot of things that we'll talk about as far as Sam Pittman coming back, but it's like, I listened to that, and again, I like Sam Pittman, I do. Is it the right move for him coming back? I don't know, but hearing that when he's like, I have to answer these questions and everything, it's like, well, yeah, you do. Like, that's your job, my man. And when there's a lot of speculation because of that's the modern day of college football. And then you go from 9 wins to 7 wins to 4 wins, maybe. If you're able to get 5 at best because you have one more game left, like, yeah, you're going to have to answer these questions. And so that was a little bit frustrating for me to hear because I'm like, I don't know what you expect. And then he's talking about recruiting, and it's like, yes, but also what hurts recruiting is losing. I don't like the way that that's handled. And I think that that's what's kind of frustrated me a little bit more about this whole thing. Like, I am not someone who just thinks that Sam Pittman is Chad Morris. Like, I'm not that. I know some people are. I'm not. Sam Pittman, and I'm not even somebody who thinks that Sam Pittman is a joke that can never get it done, because he proved in his second year that, by winning 9 games, I don't care who you are, you win 9 games in the SEC West, you're doing something right. Like, it's just not a head coach that just is dumb. Like, he's done things that have worked, and it can work. But I just don't like the fact of it being handled this way. Because my deal is like, I'm sick and tired of having to answer these questions. Well, if Hunter Yurachek would have come out much earlier and nipped us in the bud and say, no, he's our head coach next year no matter what, then you wouldn't have to. But he didn't. He waited until after the FIU game. Why? Because it's my theory that he was waiting to see, because if he would have lost the FIU game, he would have been fired. And so that's why they waited. That's why he waited. And once they won the FIU game, it's like, okay, well, now I can say it. Like, that's how you end the speculation. You could have ended it 2 weeks ago. Like, Yurachek could have ended it 2 weeks ago, but he had to wait and see. He had to wait and see what happened. He had to wait and see with the FIU game. So that whole thing is like, it just bothers me, and it frustrates me. And between that and then the NIL comments that Sam Pittman made this past week, that's what's kind of frustrated me a little bit more about how the handling of this has all been on Sam Pittman's part. And again, I like Sam Pittman, but it's just so meh. There's nothing. It just feels like, I'm not getting fired. It's y'all are hurting recruiting, speculation, reporting the truth. No one's reporting. At least anybody an astute media member, I haven't seen any reports. Maybe Mike Irwin, I know of KNWA, has given some things out here, but it's like, I don't know what you expect. Like, I don't know what you're trying to say. Like, I don't know what you think this is. This is college football. You're going to get these questions. So I was a little frustrated by that, but I covered this a lot in the live stream that I did, and I believe that with Sam Pittman coming back, because that's done. Like, no more time to speculate. It's over. It's done. He's coming back. So there's no reason to even talk about, who are you going to get, because it's over. So now it becomes like, okay, so what do you got to do, Sam? What are you going to do? Because I don't care who you are. Like, next year's it. And if it has to be it. It better be it. You got to figure this out, and you got to do it in 2 ways. Number one, you got to be able to you got to overhaul the offense completely. Overhaul the entire offense. Get you a new coordinator and show that you can spend the money in getting those coordinators. Because honestly, like, when hearing about the amount of money that it would cost Arkansas to fire Sam Pittman, and that's one of the reasons why they didn't fire him, is because of the money, because of the buyouts and everything, which I think that there's some truth to that, especially when they're trying to get all these Bud Walton renovations done and everything. Yeah, that's one thing, but how can you say you're a big-time football program if that's a problem? You know what I'm saying? Like, if it was Jimbo Fisher, $72 million, okay. But $16 million for a buyout over was it 4-year span, 5-year span after that? You should be able to handle that if you're a big-time SEC program, while also being able to do renovations to Bud Walton Arena. So I don't know if I buy all that. And if that is the case, then that's dumb. That's bad. But still, that there could be reasoning behind it. That could be what Yurachek and a lot of them had to deal with and had to say. So you got to do that. You got to be able to get a great offensive staff and spend money on it and overhaul it, and make it to where it's an effective way. And number 2, you got to hit the portal like you've never hit it before. You got to bring, like, first off, offensive linemen. Got to get them a lot. Got to get a lot of them. And you got to be able to get, depending on who leaves from the offense, if you need a new quarterback, I mean, is Criswell the answer? Don't know. But if he's not, go get somebody that is. You're going to have the wide receivers. If not, go get them. Like, you're just going to have to really hammer the offensive side of things and the portal. Not recruiting, because I don't care about recruiting right now. It won't matter. Development of players in their freshman year is not going to matter this upcoming season. It's do or die for Sam Pittman. You got to be good now, right now. You got to be at your best. And so just hit that portal like you've never hit it before and get high-quality players. And also maintain the players that are on the roster that you need to keep and want to keep. And we'll talk about that in the next segment, because what that's going to look like. But those are the 2 things you have to do. Since you're keeping Sam Pittman, those are what the things you have to do in order to give Razorback fans hope, in order to show that you're going the right direction. And, it's frustrating. It's frustrating because I just feel like this is being handled in a weird way that doesn't need to be handled in such a weird way. There's a lot of weirdness to it all. But we'll talk about like what it looks like moving forward and what the roster has a possibility of looking like here in just a second. But first, got to tell you, college students, I know a lot of you that listen to this podcast and watch this podcast, listen up. There's this incredible app called listening.com, in which they can take any academic paper or PDF or class material and actually turn it into an audiobook. If you can read, it could read math equations, technical words, and complicated documents, and it knows how to skip all the citations and the footnotes and references and let you jump right into the chapter or section that you want to listen to. It even has a one-click note-taking button where it automatically puts the last 10 seconds into a notepad, so you don't have to type notes while you're listening to it, which I know with finals going to be coming up. This is something that could become real and handy for a lot of you college students out there. And best of all, if you use the link of listening.com/lockedon, you'll be able to get your first 3 weeks for free. So go ahead and give it a try. Usually it's 2 weeks free, but because you listen to this podcast, you get an extra week. And all you got to do is go to listening.com/lockedon.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, looking into what this roster is going to look like for Arkansas next year. Because Sam Pittman's coming back, and you have to overhaul this offense, and I don't want to see really, I want to see somebody that you bring in that can do the job and be effective and high quality. And people are saying, oh, well, how are you going to bring in a high quality coordinator for 1 year? It's like, well, pay him then. Pay him. If you can't do a 2-year deal for $1.5 million a year, so a $3 million deal for 2 years, then do a $3 million deal for 1 year. And just have that guy say, all right, you get 1 year at it. Here's $3 million. Do something about it. Like, I don't care. Do whatever it takes. But the question's going to become with the coordinator and what the offense looks like. What is the offense actually going to look like overall? Because KJ Jefferson can come back next season. He's not going pro. I don't think he's going to try his hand at the NFL. He's not going to get drafted. So, barring him just being done with college and wanting to move on, he's either going to play at Arkansas or he's going to play somewhere else in college. Now, some of you have a lot of different opinions on this. It's like, I'm at the point where if he decides to transfer out, I get it. As long as he doesn't transfer in conference where Arkansas has to play him. Like, as long as he doesn't transfer to like Mississippi State or like Auburn or something like that. Like, that would be pretty brutal. If he's going to transfer, fine. Transfer out of the conference, though, please. Because that would be pretty brutal. But, I mean, depending on who the coordinator is, he may come in and be like, yeah, I want KJ Jefferson as my guy. For sure. He's awesome. He may want that. Or he may say, you know what, actually, I got this guy in the portal that I want to get. Or actually, no, I Criswell more. So I'm going to bring, whatever it is. I think that you're going to have some options at quarterback. Personally, I don't mind if KJ comes back. I know some of you do. I don't. But if he moves on, I also think the Razorbacks will be okay too. So it's just there. But then you got all the running backs. You got Rocket Sanders, who has battled through injury pretty much all season long, hasn't been able to really get anything going, and he even got injured in the FIU game. So it's like, what does he do? A.J. Green, Rashad Dubinion, Dominic Johnson. Like, what do they all do? Because they can all come back for one more year. I mean, I wouldn't mind having them all back. They're all quality running backs, I believe. The wide receiver position, is there going to be some of these guys that transferred in that are going to stick with it for another year, or do they want to go ahead and move on with their career? I don't know. Offensive line, you better hit hot and heavy. Like, that should be first, second, and third priorities. Just hitting the offensive line like you've never hit it before. Just boom, 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 over and over and over again. Make that work. Do whatever it takes. Do whatever it takes to get as many offensive linemen, high-quality offensive linemen via the portal as much as possible. Do that. That needs to be your first thing. So that's what the offense, I feel like the offense is going to look completely different next year. Like, if I'm just throwing it out there of what I believe is going to happen, I think the offense is going to look different. I think you're going to have another quarterback. I think you're going to have, maybe not all the running backs, but most of them. I think you'll have a lot of new wide receivers. I think you'll have, hopefully Luke Has stays and, doesn't try to transfer out after his injury because he's great. Ty Washington, I hope he stays. And then you may have a completely new offensive line for all I know. Like, you could. Maybe one or two stay, but it could be completely different. So that's going to be, that could be just, and with the staff and everything, just be all different. However, the defense is a much more interesting thing because the defense almost all of them can come back, if I'm not mistaken. I know, I think it's Antonio Greer that can't. I think there's a couple of other players too, maybe. But, and I'm not saying that all will. I think Landon Jackson will probably go pro. But I'm just saying that if they wanted to, they could all come back. And I think your defensive staff has done a really good job. So if you can find a way to keep as much of those defensive players in as possible, because I think the defense is good and they can, continue to develop and improve, and then also get some portal guys for added depth. If you can do that and then bring them in and, just kind of put it all there in perspective, I think you're good to go defensively. Because I like where you're at. The defense has not been the issue this year. It hasn't been at all. I'm not saying it's been perfect, but the defense overall has done a pretty good job. They've done good enough to win you games. It's the offense that has really put you in a bad spot most of the time. So, I think you could look at a completely different offense and almost the same type of defense next year. And you know what? That's probably not the worst thing in the world. It's probably not the worst thing in the world. So we'll just have to get to that point. We're going to talk about something else that happened over the weekend. Razorback basketball lost a non-conference game, which was really frustrating. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But score early this NFL season with America's #1 sportsbook. It is FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can get a $150 back bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. It's FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Yeah, it just wasn't a great weekend overall for Razorback sports. Razorback soccer lost. That was really frustrating in the NCAA tournament. It was the first time they haven't made the Sweet 16 in a while, and they were a really good team this year, so that's just disappointing. But also, Razorback basketball on Friday night lost at home in a non-conference game against UNC Greensboro. I was there at the game, and I know a lot of you were, and it was... First off, you got to give credit to UNC Greensboro. I just think that they were a well-coached team that came in wanting to beat Arkansas. And I think that they had a chippiness to them to try to get a little physical, get in the head of some of the players there for Arkansas. And I think that they kind of had a system in place and the way that they played that made it pretty difficult for Arkansas to get anything going offensively. I think their defensive scheme is really good against Arkansas's offense, what they were trying to do. And it was just a bad mix completely. But Arkansas also didn't play well. I mean, they did not play well at all. Arkansas in the first half especially, they shot 10 of 27 from the field, 1 of 10 from three-point land. And they ended up shooting 44% from the field. It's not great. below their average, and 4 of 23 for 17%. Yeah, they ain't going to cut it. They did go 20 of 25 from the free throw line, was 80%, but just too much. Yeah, 7 assists on 13 turnovers. UNC Greensboro had 15 assists on 10 turnovers. 8 steals also for UNC Greensboro. Trevin Brazil did not play well. You could just tell it seemed like there was times where he was just like trying to decide like how I put this. It doesn't look like he's in the shape that he needs to be in, and he's like fully back, fully ready. And you could tell, looked like he was exhausted. Looked like there was a little mental fatigue there, maybe. But he had 9 points and 9 rebounds, but just did not play well. L. Ellis was definitely a guy offensively who was helping Arkansas as well as Tremont Mark. It's crazy. L. Ellis had 19 points, went 5 of 10 from the field. Tremont Mark went 9 of 15 from the field and had 21 points. So it's like if I would have told you that Tremont Mark was going to have 21 points and L. Ellis was going to have 19 points, most of you probably would have been like, oh, that's an easy win. But Devo had 10 points. He went 4 of 11 from the field. Caleb Battle was the one that really struggled. Because, he's been really one of the best Arkansas scorers they've had this year. He went 2 of 10 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3, had 11 points and only 6 rebounds. Yeah, Arkansas got rebounded by this team. Had more turnovers. Just a bad performance. And Eric Musselman was frustrated. The team was frustrated. Everybody was frustrated, and rightfully so. But here's the thing, is like, I love how people are like telling you, it's like, this is what you got to look. It's not saying that it's nothing, but it is something. You can't say that it's just not a big deal at all because, there is some major problems. Okay. Here's how I look at it, folks. Yeah, it's a bad loss. You don't want to lose this game at home. It's a non-conference game at home. It could impact your net ranking at the end of the season. That's true. 100%. No doubt. But I didn't look at this game and say, oh my gosh, forget what we've seen so far in this season and in the exhibition games and all that. Forget all of that. There's major issues on this team. I'm not seeing it that way. Now, are there things they need to continue to work on? Sure, of course. They got to continue to get their offensive flow going. They got to be able to have a better chemistry out there on the court. They got to be able to respond to physicality, because I think even in this game too, there was a lot of early fouls that caused frustrations. You got to overcome that adversity. Like, those are things though that can come along with it. But to just throw up your arms and be like, well, this team sucks, or well, this team doesn't, blah, 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 whatever. Come on. Like, you're going to get tested like this. And I think it's great for the team. Because at the end of the day, it's about March. You all know this. It's about March. And let's see what they do in the Battle for Atlantis. It's coming up this week. Like, it's just the reaction that people have over basketball games can be pretty wild to me. Not saying that it's just this is a big nothing burger, but again, to act like this is the standard now that we're going to see for the rest of the year is just clown shoes. Like, it's just not true. So hopefully they bounce back. It was a bad game. They performed poorly, very, very poorly. Honestly, as crazy as it is, I think that because Jalen Graham didn't play, his back was still bothering him. I was like, man, Jalen Graham would have helped him in this game, I think, because they needed offense. They needed help offensively. And when you're not shooting the ball well and Caleb Battle is your best scorer, goes 2 of 10 from the field, yeah, they ain't cutting it. They ain't cutting it. But, yeah, Devo had 10.6 rebounds. Caleb Battle had 11 points and 6 rebounds. So, like, the rebounding from the guards were good. And then Brazil had 9. But just, yeah, like Mekhi Mitchell, he only played 8 minutes in this game, had 2 points, committed 4 fouls. Chandler Lawson committed 3 fouls, played 10 minutes. It's like 2 of your big guys that you're having to rely on did nothing but really just get you in foul trouble. So, yeah, again, they'll be all right. We'll see how they respond. See how they respond in the Battle for Atlantis. But frustrating, no doubt. Frustrating, no doubt. And to think that they got the Battle for Atlantis and then Duke after that, man, should be a wild one. Can't wait. Sure, it'll all be fine, right? Here's the thing: if you go to Atlantis, you perform really well, and then if you beat Duke at home, everyone's going to look back on this game and be like, yeah, see, that was just a bad game. But let's see how it plays out. Got plenty of games left to go in this regular season. Appreciate everybody listening in to Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.